Mr. Speaker. And may it please the House, as it does please my friends on this side of the aisle, that I can advise that reports of my resignation are in fact an exaggeration. Now I know Trevor will be disappointed with that, and certainly the opposition, but I can advise that I am here to stay for a little longer. Mr. Speaker, Thursday, 20th of May 2010 will go down as one of the great days in history of this House. We had presented to us a budget that brought a seismic shift in the tax structure and the tax system of this country. And we moved from a system that was unsustainable, lacked coherence and lacked fairness and equity to a budget that brought and delivered what the people of New Zealand wanted, and delivered by a Minister of Finance that I have no doubt history will show will be one of the great ministers of finance that this country has ever seen. And of course that was followed up by one of the great endearing speeches that this House has heard by an outstanding leader of this country, by the Prime Minister John Key, who in fact tore the leader of the opposition to shreds as he floundered around trying to look for an argument, having had all his points destroyed while following the budget's presentation. Mr. Speaker, I am humbled. I am humbled to be part of this momentous occasion, the momentous day of the 20th of May. And the feedback, of course, bears witness to the excellent budget that has been provided. We've heard some figures from the opposition. What the opposition haven't told you is that people do care about others. They're not in it for themselves. Right. And in fact, the TV polls show that people thought it was a good, in fact, by a clear majority, an overwhelming majority, felt that in fact it was great for the country. Newspaper polls, all the newspaper polls, over 80%. And of course, the New Zealand Business Council for Sustainable Development, that left-wing organisation from their own side, even they had to concede that 78%, I think, let me check, yes, 78% support for the tax changes. There is no poll that in fact can demonstrate that this budget was not good for this country. I want to pause for a moment, Mr. Speaker, and acknowledge the great support of the Maori Party for this budget, who were glowing in their praise. And in particular, as Tariana Turia said in her speech, that in fact we're in for the long haul. It is in fact the path to success that carries. It's not the short gains, it's not the shorts, it's the long-term vision. And that's, in fact, the Maori Party should be congratulated for that, and so I offer my congratulations. The question we need to ask ourselves, of course, is why has this budget received overwhelming support? Well, let me tell you. Firstly, it allows people to make their own decisions with their own money. It's fundamental. They earned it. They can make the decisions about their own money. It ensures, in fact, that the very high-income people pay their fair share of taxes, and it brings balance to the investment choices. And that's why people overwhelmingly support this budget. How does it do this? Well, 75% of the package is dedicated to the lowest two tax brackets. 75% of income earners will get to keep 82 cents in every dollar, extra dollar they earn. And the average tax rate, this is not a figure that has in fact been shared often, but the average tax rate now for these two income brackets is actually 15%. But the opposition sit there and say that the wealthiest gain the most because, well, the first point is that they actually pay the most. They pay the most. And in fact, what these tax changes have done have taken the figures from 33% up in 2000 to 39% and back to 33%, and that's where they are. And in fact, the biggest, but if you actually look at it, if you actually look at it in mathematical terms, and I know that's quite difficult for some on the opposition, but in fact the biggest winners is the income bracket between 14,000 and 48,000 received a 17% reduction, and those in the 0 to 14 received a 16% reduction in their tax, way ahead of the other income brackets. Now, I know that is a bit difficult for the opposition to comprehend. That's right. So I'm going to give them a little example of one in 101.
Point of order.
The member Carmel Cipollone keeps holding up visual aids. My understanding of the speaking orders is that can only be done sparingly by a speaker.
Yeah, I didn't notice, but the member ought not to be holding visual aids. Right. Paul Quinn.
So let me give you an example. Let me give an example. Let's take, for instance, the Biggest Loser matchup, right? We all know what the Biggest Loser matchup is, right? Now, if I take my friend Tau Henare, and during the Biggest Loser matchup, he has a 7% reduction, right? Once, in fact, when the weigh-in comes. And in the red corner, I have Parikura Horomia, okay? And he has a 5% reduction, right?
I wrote the speech.
Now, in relative terms, Tau wins. In relative terms, because he had the greatest level of reduction. But we all know, in absolute terms, Parikura wins, right? In absolute terms, Parikura wins. But are we going to be jealous? No. Are we going to be envious? No. Of course not. We will rejoice at the fact that in absolute terms, Parikura actually got more, and the reason is because he had more to give. It's as simple as that. He actually had more to give. Now, I know, Darren, you're lost in all this, but it's actually pretty simple. All right? So, as I see, right? Now, I want to just before I conclude, I just want to, in fact, comment on the Greens' contribution to this debate. And we've heard Russell Norman, their male leader, say New Zealanders want prosperity. Economic growth is the basis for the increased opportunity. And on the other side, we have Materia Ture. And she says, New Zealanders like to think of ourselves as an egalitarian society where everyone gets a fair go. Okay? Well, let me just say, egalitarianism is not the same as mediocrity. And that is a fundamental issue, and in fact, National Party is not about averaging down, it's about aspiring up. Government's responsibility, our responsibility as government, is to provide safety net, yes. A lifestyle, no. A hand up, yes. A spoon fed, no. And that's the problem with the Green Party. They want to average down. This side want to aspire up. Egalitarianism is about equality of opportunity. That's what it's about. And it's important that we provide the tools for people to use. We show compassion and aspiration. It's about creating the environment where everyone, in particular our youth, have every opportunity to achieve their potential. That's what's actually important, and that's what we're here to govern. This budget provides the greatest opportunity for all New Zealanders to be able to achieve their potential. I just want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, if I may, by just reflecting on a visit last week to the Pinehaven School in Hutt, where We talked about this,